What up, though, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of the Go Debate podcast. So glad that you are joining us for this episode 25. That's right. We are at the Big 25, episode 25 of the Go Debate. It's Meech, it's Darius with you as always. And we have another exciting topic to discuss tonight here on the Go Debate, where we like to settle once and for all, or at least we like to think we do, who is truly the greatest of all time. Darius, what's up, man? Are you ready? Are you ready for another show?
I'm definitely ready for another show, but judging by what you turned in, I'm not quite sure you're ready. Maybe we need to pause this episode, let you go back a week, watch a couple episodes of some good game shows, and then we can continue. I don't know. It's up to you, though. Whatever you want to do.
Well, Darius has let the cat out the bag, which is perfectly fine as we get into this episode on what the topic of discussion is for tonight. Of course, we got the tragic news last week that the great Alex Trebek passed away. He lost his battle with pancreatic cancer. And so we thought, as a special tribute to the great Alex Trebek, we thought it would be fitting tonight to have a discussion on the best television game shows of all time. So that will be the topic of debate tonight on the GOAT Debate. Best television game shows of all time. And Darius clearly has an issue with some of my selections here on the list, but it's not about me, really. It's about the composite ranking that consists of an average of my top five, Darius's top five, and the top five of the people that we polled throughout the week. We call them the tribe, our great listeners and supporters out there. Of course, we appreciate and thank you guys for the support. And so that combination of average votes from those three entities comprise the top five that you will hear tonight. And before we get into the top five, we always like to talk about our honorable mentions. And that is where I think Mr. Darius Brown has an issue. And so tonight, as we get into this and get into our first honorable mention, he's not going to like it, but I don't care. The first honorable mention tonight, yes, it's an honorable mention because of where I place this television show in my ranking. And when I tell you guys what the show is, if anybody grew up in the late 80s, the 90s, you loved this show. This show debuted, actually, it originally ran from 1986 to 1993. There was a revival of the show in the 2000s that wasn't nearly as successful. That first run from 86 to 93 was really when the show was at its best. 482 episodes in that time span. This was a show that was on a up and coming children's network, and that network would be, of course, Nickelodeon. The show was hosted by Mark Summers, and the name of that show was Double Dare. It was one of my favorites. It was, if like I said, if you were a kid, a teenager growing up in the late 80s, early to mid 90s, you were a fan of Double Dare. It combined, the question and answer format of your typical game show with physical challenges, as they call them on the show. And so it was, entertaining show. I loved it. Darius, do you have any thoughts on Double Dare other than the fact, again, ladies and gentlemen, let me clarify. This show is not in the top five. It is an honorable mention. However, I personally had it as number 5 on my list of 5 all-time favorite game shows. Double Dare was a great, fun, entertaining game show.
Listen, Did I enjoy Double Dare as a child? Yes, I did. But it's not even the top game show on that network. Okay, so for it to even get in an honorable mention, you telling me it was better than Legend of the Hidden Temple? No.
What? I've never heard of what is Legend of the Hidden Temple? What is that? What is that?
Are you? Oh my! Somebody! All right, you gonna have to just go back and watch it. Legends of the Hidden Temple was an amazing game show where they would answer questions, run through this temple. It was kind of spooky. It was an action adventure TV show. It was amazing. All right, as a kid, it was amazing. Google it right now as I go through the other great shows that you miss. Guts. Are you telling me Guts isn't up there? Come on, Guts. Who didn't want to be on Guts? The American Gladiators version for kids? Yes, put me on that. That is above Double Dare. Okay, Double Dare was an okay game, but if you go back and look at it now, look at the weak obstacles. Yes, it had slime, I guess, right? Didn't it have slime? I mean,
of course it has slime, yes.
Not the best. It's not the best. Hold up, pause. We've got breaking news. This must be stopped. James has seceded. He has seceded, and he agrees.
Okay.
That Guts is on top. Double Dare. I have a whiny kid in the background. Can't figure out YouTube. He's trying to get and figure out why Double Dare is on my screen as a honorable mention. Stop it, Stokes. Stop.
Okay, well, let me break it down like this, because I'm sure that Guts is not ranked in TV Guide's list of the 50 greatest game shows of all time. In fact, let me help you. It's not. It's not ranked. But guess what show is? Double Dare. Double Dare also remains Nickelodeon's longest running game show. Longer than Guts, longer than Legends of the Lost Ark, or whatever Hidden Temple, whatever game show you just named that I never heard of. And TV Guide, okay, my personal top 5 is on my list, but TV Guide ranked it number 29 on its list of 50 greatest game shows of all time. So this is a renowned game show. This isn't, I don't even know what was the premise of Guts. Wasn't Guts just really kind of a Double Dare knockoff, kind of, with the slime and the other things? What inspired Guts? What fathered Guts? It was Double Dare. Double Dare is Guts' daddy, and that is why Double Dare is better and the best game show that Nickelodeon ever produced, and it's worthy, in my opinion, of an honorable mention tonight, if for no other reason than that it's Guts' daddy. I'm just saying, okay?
I got no response to that.
Yeah, I know you don't. But listen, we could argue. Listen, it was my top 5, and I put Double Dare in my top 5 because I enjoyed Double Dare, and because of that, it got an honorable mention. People in the chat room don't agree, but that's okay. That's why this is the GOAT debate. We debate, we discuss, we agree, we disagree, and for the first time maybe ever, James and Darius are on the same page, which truly confirms that this is the year 2020. Listen, I knew somebody would come in the clutch. Courtney says Double Dare should be number 2. Not an honorable mention, Darius. Number 2 behind Jeopardy. Double Dare, he can't spell, but that's okay. He corrected himself. Jeopardy. Double Dare, in his opinion, is the second best game show of all time. Do you hear me? Of all time. But tonight, on this episode of the GOAT debate, it is an honorable mention.
Well, that just lets us know we could throw out his opinion for the rest of the show. So it goes straight into the garbage.
All right. Well, Double Dare, I love. Again, honorable mention tonight. Our first honorable mention as we count down the greatest television game shows of all time. And our second honorable mention has gotten a number of number of variations. This show debuted originally in 1973. We've seen versions of this show. It actually ran from 1973 to 1978. 1,211 episodes. That is a lot. Came back in 2012. Apparently, it came back again in 2016 and still exists today. This show has had some famous hosts that include Dick Clark, Bill Cullen, Donny Osmond. I think even Michael Strahan has hosted a version of this show in its most recent version. We're talking about the game show Pyramid. It also is has been called the $100,000 Pyramid, the $25,000 Pyramid, but the premise of the whole show is pyramid. I think it's the structure of the show is you answer questions and kind of work your way up the pyramid, which is worth various dollar amounts. I remember this show, especially being younger. I remember watching this show. I want to say the version probably that was hosted by Dick Clark. I definitely remember those, and I remember enjoying this show. This show was actually the show that got a lot of love from the tribe, which is why it made honorable mention. It actually was tied, if I'm not mistaken, for 5th in the honorable mention voting. I'm sorry, 5th in the tribe voting, and thus made our honorable mention in the composite ranking. Got more votes than Double Dare, so it was the higher ranking honorable mention.
That's because Double Dare got 1 vote.
Whatever. But listen, 1,211 shows from 1973 to 1988. That's pretty impressive. That's a pretty long run. But Pyramid, man, I remember the winner's circle. You go in the winner's circle, you get all the clues, and you gotta try to figure out what the question is. And so, Pyramid was a good show, man. I mean, what are your thoughts on Pyramid, and do you remember the show first and foremost? Being the youngin' here of the two of us, do you remember the show, and which version of the show, if you do remember it, did you like the best?
I guess associating with $100,000 Pyramid is the only one that really stands out. Because I mean, $10,000. You gotta think about it. $10,000. Think about that now. Somebody offering you the top prize of a game show for $10,000. That's crazy. That's crazy now, and that's changed a lot. Primarily by one other show that may make it into this top 5. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I also, upon taking a look at it, saw that there was a weird name attached to the show in 1996, which could have changed the whole landscape for this one individual. Maybe not, but apparently Marky Mark was tapped in to host it, or did host it for a little bit in 1996, and then kind of faded away. So
who knew?
Who knew, right? And I guess he moved on to bigger and better things for him. But yeah, it's a fun show. It's one of those shows that that can translate to a game night in your household real easily, and be a really fun thing to play. So I enjoy it. It's not one that I would go out of my way to watch, but if it's on, yeah, I'm gonna sit down and see if I can answer some of these questions and yell at the screen a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, man, Pyramid. Like I said, I remember the Dick Clark versions of the show. I think Michael Strahan, if I'm not mistaken, hosted the show more recently, I think, when ABC, which I think they're still trying to do, where they're trying to kind of revive a lot of these game shows kind of on Sunday night. And they had, Family Feud and a couple other things running against it. And so, yeah, man, Pyramid is one of those that I think those that came up, in the 70s, 80s, they probably can appreciate. So Pyramid, our second honorable mention tonight as we debate the greatest television game shows of all time. And now, without further ado, let's get into the top 5. Darius, I think you're going to be happy with number 5. I think you had this game show very high on your personal list. In fact, I think it was in your top 3. It was a contender for my top 5, but did not make my personal top 5. It came in at number 4 on the Tribes list and makes our composite ranking tonight at number 5. This game show, I will give it a lot of credit. It was something different. Game shows are kind of falling off, and this game show kind of came back. And I don't want to say game shows kind of fell off, because I guess game shows never really fallen off, but it kind of led a craze and a phenomenon. I remember it being immensely popular when it debuted. I remember owning a video game and really being addicted and into the show when it originally debuted in 1999. It actually was originally a 2-week special event and was so successful that they actually just made it into a series, a game show series. Originally hosted by Regis Philbin, the late great Regis Philbin. Additional hosts have included Meredith Vieira, which you might know her from The View. I don't think she's on there anymore, but she used to be. Cedric the Entertainer. Here's one I didn't know. Terry Crews hosted this show briefly.
I didn't know Cedric did, but I knew Terry did.
Had no idea. I knew Cedric the Entertainer did. Wow, Terry Crews hosted it briefly, and most recently and currently, the show is hosted by Jimmy Kimmel. And this show, ladies and gentlemen, is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Coming in at number 5 on our list of best television game shows. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is a Emmy Award-winning game show. 7 Emmy Awards, daytime Emmys for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I talked about that TV Guide ranking of the 50 greatest game shows of all time, where my Double Dare was ranked, but Pyramid was not. Well, I don't know if Pyramid was not. I shouldn't say that. Pyramid might have been. But Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came in on that list at number 6. So even though it is a more recent game show compared to some of the other game shows that we might discuss tonight, and we even discussed in our honorable mention, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire has been so impactful since its inception in 1999 that TV Guide recognized it as one of the 10 best game shows of all time. Darius, I know this one is your baby, coming in at number 3 on your personal top 5. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Give me your thoughts.
Yo, this is what I was referring to change the landscape of money when it comes to game shows. It's the first one, I believe, that offered that $1 million prize, and I think this is the first one to have a $1 million prize winner. And it was, you said, a phenomenon. It was one of those, it was must-see TV in 1999. The explosion was ridiculous. If you go look back at the average viewership for the year, it was number 1 for Tuesday. I'm talking about overall, but their Tuesday show was number 1 in the ratings. Their Thursday show was number 2, and then their Sunday show was number 3. So the overall shows for the entire year, they had the top 3 spots. So that tells you how big this show is. No other game show is has hit those heights. And as I mentioned, giving away millions of dollars. If you look at the other game shows, some of the most money you can win in one night is like $100,000, even for the bigger shows. Even those you'll see some people with cumulative awards and money way bigger, but there's none bigger than that show. But it's just it was an amazing phenomenon. It spawned the movie that was one of the biggest of the year, I think in like 2008, Slumdog Millionaire, which featured a kid from India going through, and it ended up spawning reality when a couple years later in 2011 when a person from India won the $1 million prize, and it's just gone on and crushed it. So they've revived it. We were talking about this in the chat. They brought it back with Jane Lynch, I think's her name, from Glee. And it's been pretty. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I lied. That wasn't Jane Lynch. That's 100% a different show. That was the Week of Glee we were talking. I'm getting my conversation mixed up. But regardless, it's a phenomenal show, and it took the money value up for all the other shows. You can't be doing the $10,000 pyramid when we got people competing for $1 million on this show. So
yeah, but and that's true, and I think you got to think though, how many millionaires have they actually crowned in the history of that show since 1999? By my count, looks like it's 12. So you got to think is 19 from 1999 to until 2020, because the show still exists today. I'm pretty sure there were some breaks in between there. I don't think it's been running consecutively from 99 to 2020, but 12. I think I said, what was it, 12 millionaires that they have crowned in the history of the show. So yes, you're right. You have an opportunity to win a large sum of money, and then you got to consider too, in between that, people are winning $50,000, $125,000, $250,000. So that's some big money involved. I would definitely like to see a ranking of, how much money, the game shows have paid out, cumulatively. But I would imagine that some of the ones that have been out for decades, longer than say a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, would probably eclipse even this show.
Well, yeah, and I looked at that because I was trying to find the single day, because I kept seeing cumulative records, because your other game shows, a lot of them, if you win, you can come back on and play where Millionaire is just one and done. I don't know how many repeats they have allowed, if any, to attempt it again. So it's a little bit of a different playing field, if you would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so some of the other ones that we'll talk about have a much higher cumulative rankings there. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, Courtney in the chat room says, the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was a revolution when it first came out, and it truly was, man. I remember, the 2-week special thing that they did before actually making it a full-time television show. I just remember watching that thing like every night, being checked in and tuned in and locked in, wanting to see that. And then, like I said, I own the video game. I play versions of the game on, mobile devices. You can download things of that nature. And so Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is definitely top 5 worthy, I would say. It's definitely, at least in the last 20 years, has probably been one of the better game shows that has been on television. So Who Wants to Be a Millionaire comes in at number 5 on our list of the best television game shows of all time. And Darius,
yep,
we don't have a number 4 tonight.
Ooh.
We don't have a number 4 tonight because we have a tie at number 3. We have 2 game shows. They got the same amount of cumulative votes to tie at number 3. And so the first show that comes in at number 3 is a show that originated in 1956. This is a franchise that started way back in the 50s. It is probably more well known for the version of the show from 1972 on to present day, because in 1972, the host came on the scene by the name of Bob Barker, and he took this show to a whole new level. We're talking about The Price is Right. Comes in tied for third tonight on our list of the greatest television game shows of all time. Listen, if you grew up in a house, or if you ever spent any time with your grandmother, Meemaw, granny, whatever you call your grandmother, or maybe some older, person in your family, maybe not even older. I guess it is not limited to older people. But I don't remember a weekday at 11 o'clock where The Price is Right wasn't on TV in either one of my grandmother's houses. The Price is Right was always the precursor to the soap operas. So, you watch The Price is Right, and then, you watch the news, and then you watch The Young and the Restless. That was kind of both my grandmothers. That was kind of their thing. And The Price is Right was always like that show I remember watching as a kid, and I just wanted to be on. I was like, man, it just looked so exciting. You had the big wheel you could spin. You had all the different games. I always wanted to play Plinko. Plinko was, one of my favorites. Always wanted to be on The Price is Right. It's definitely one of the all-time great television game shows of all time, for sure.
It was. And when you stayed home sick because you didn't want to go to school,
yeah,
definitely turned on The Price is Right, and you watched that game show. You mentioned some of the accolades, longest running game show in U.S. TV history, and I think maybe the only game show to be on all three networks, all three major networks. It's just amazing that I guess it's iconic now, right? It's iconic in TV history. They made an amazing. I don't know if you've seen the documentary you can watch it on YouTube now. Perfect Bid, the contestant who knew too much, who basically is matching this, who studies and memorized the prices and being able to guess and know exactly how much things were. And it followed his journey to try to win the final prize, and how tough it was just to get onto the stand to be able to do that. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's very interesting, and it gives you an insight to game shows, specifically The Price is Right. And it's fun to watch, like, people who are celebrities that fanned out, like what's his name, Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. And I don't know if y'all seen the clip of him getting on The Price is Right and freaking out before he got famous. So I mean, there's like so many great moments, and then of course Bob Barker, right? A legend, and one of my favorite cameos in movie history. Him, in Adam Sandler's flick. So
Happy Gilmore. Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, it's an iconic show, all around. Definitely deserves to be in a top 5 list.
And then here's the crazy part, right? I just remember, obviously game shows. Some of the game shows, have the eye candy, have the models, and all of that stuff. Price is Right was kind of the originators of that. I just remember, like, being young and in love with like Barker's beauties. It's like, oh my God, Miss Parker from Friday. the movie Friday. Miss Parker from Friday. Before being Miss Parker on Friday, her claim to fame was being, a Barker's beauty. So, that's I think maybe that's where they found her. So, it's just amazing to see, how television game shows, right, just becomes so ingrained in the pop culture, right? Like you said, Bob Barker being on Happy Gilmore. We talked about Miss Parker being a Barker's beauty, and so now, of course, the show is hosted by Drew Carey and still going strong. Now, it's amazing. I just looked here and it's like, wow, Jim Carrey has been the host of Price is Right for 13 years already. He took over in 2007.
True.
Huh?
Not Jim.
What did I say, Jim?
You said Jim Carrey. That's a totally
different. Did I say Jim? I'm sorry, Drew Carey. My bad. Yeah, Drew Carey. I thought I said Drew. But yeah, he's been hosting since 2007, so he's been going strong for 13 years. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've ever watched a version of The Price is Right with him as the host. I think maybe in flicking channels I may have come across it, but I haven't watched The Price is Right in years. But it's definitely one of those timeless classics, which James alluded to in the chat room, where he actually says The Price is Right was a timeless classic, and indeed he's correct.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of worry about that, even from the producers, because there's mention that they made sure that maybe games were easier, or they're at the bottom line was there was more winners when he retired, so that people would stay interested. It's also interesting to see that he beat out Mario Lopez, and apparently Rosie O'Donnell were two people in the running for that show.
Interesting.
So how would it have turned out if either one? I think if Mario would have won it, I think that it may have helped carry on that legacy a little bit more than Drew Carey would. So I don't know what obviously went into making that choice, but nonetheless, still one of the greatest game shows in TV history.
Yeah, absolutely. And quick to add that we've been talking about this TV Guide ranking of the greatest television shows of all time. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was number 5 on our list, was ranked number 6 on TV Guide's list, and The Price is Right came in at number 5. So the number 5 greatest television game show of all time per TV Guide, tied for number 3 on our list tonight. Price is Right, man. A lot of these game shows, they end up trying to just capitalize on the popularity, the licensing, all of those things. And so, of course, there have been Price is Right video games. Of course, there are Price is Right, downloadable mobile games, all of those things. The Price is Right released a Facebook version of the game in 2010, and in 2 months, they had 2 million active users. So The Price is Right is still one of those games that is very popular, and lots of people like to watch. So Price is Right comes in a 3rd place tie tonight on our list of the greatest television game shows of all time. And who were they tied with? Well, they were tied with a NBC classic. I think we got to give a lot of credit to Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin is probably like the guru of game show of creations. He's created some of the best game shows of all time, and the show that's coming in the 3rd place tie tonight is no different. Actually, my understanding was the show was actually inspired by the game Hangman. I don't know if you've ever played that game before, where you are trying to figure out or solve a puzzle. And so this game show, created by Merv Griffin, debuted in 1975. Something I didn't know, it was originally hosted by Chuck Woolery, who would go on to host like the dating game. I think it was it the dating game? I'm
Marriage?
sorry, Love Connection. Love Connection.
Connection.
He hosted Love Connection, which was a dating, a dating type of game.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the original host. He left in 1981, and the man who took over and is the host till this day is Pat Sajak. Pat Sajak took over as the host in 1981 and has been hosting ever since. And of course, he has his lovely assistant, maybe the most famous, one of the most famous. She's not even the host of the show, but probably one of the most famous figures in game show television history, and that's of course Vanna White. And so, of course, tie for number 3 tonight is the game show Wheel of Fortune. And Wheel of Fortune is one of my favorites, always has been. And what makes Wheel of Fortune great is that I just remember being able to like compete against my other family members, like sitting around the TV watching as Darius takes a sip of Moscato. I don't know what he's drinking, but it's in a wine glass. So, but I just remember kind of sitting around with the family, and we would like keep a tally on who answered the most puzzles and things of that nature. And so Wheel of Fortune has just always been one of my favorites, always a fun game. Again, another one of those game shows that I've always wanted to go on. But yeah, man, Pat Sajak, Vanna White, how old are they? That's my question. So Pat Sajak is 74. So Pat Sajak is 74 years old. Vanna White is 63.
Don't be telling no woman's age, man. What's wrong with you?
I'm just, they've been doing the show since we were kids, man. And now we grown with our own kids and they're still doing the show. So I'm like, geez, man, they had to start very young, which clearly they did. But Wheel of Fortune is another one of those classics, and definitely deserving of being in the top 5 tonight.
It definitely is. And I've got my own personal Wheel of Fortune memory. And it's hanging out in the park. I used to work as a youth sports coordinator back in the day. And lo and behold, we see the Wheel of Fortune tour bus pull up in one of the parks. Apparently, they were filming in South Carolina, and they were going for just like B-roll shots, I guess, around the city. And just happened to see Vanna White just walking across the park all by herself. It was very weird. It was like a movie-esque thing, and she was just gliding across the grass and walked up to her and took a picture. She was very nice and friendly. So, she wasn't one of those crushing appearances, but I thought it was a cool moment, right? Get to meet Vanna White even for a second. But, back to the game show itself and to Vanna White, who apparently is an avid crossword puzzle fan and apparently contributes to some of the puzzles we see. They say her ideas get used quite often. But you talk about Merv Griffin and his ability to make game shows and just make these hits. Well, Pat Sajak apparently was just a weatherman on an NBC channel, and he plucked them up. And NBC didn't even want to hire him. He had to fight. He refused to film any more episodes, apparently. And what a winner was that? He went on to, you said it, we've been watching him since we were kids. So what a great decision to halt production and pull this no name in Hollywood and make him the star of, one of the longer running shows in history.
Yeah, definitely. You talk about, longer running shows in history. It is the longest running syndicated game show in the United States, with over 7,000 taped episodes. And that was as of May 2019. So it's probably, even more now. We talked about that TV Guide ranking. So far, we've had Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at number 6. We had Price is Right at number 5. And TV Guide ranked Wheel of Fortune the second greatest television game show ever.
Not Double Dare?
Not Double Dare. No, Double Dare was 29th. We already discussed this.
Oh, I was going back to Courtney's number 2. But
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's probably because Double Dare doesn't have, I don't know, the second most daytime Emmys at 28. That would belong to the show we're talking about, Wheel of Fortune. Okay, but continue.
I mean, 28. I mean, that's 28 Emmys. That's insane. That's amazing. 60 international adaptations of the Wheel of Fortune show. And Pat Sajak is now the longest running host of any game show. He got that title back in September of this year, surpassing the previously mentioned Bob Barker. So he is officially now the king in terms of game show longevity. So you talked about all of the Emmy awards that they have won. It was the highest rated show in all of syndication until it was dethroned by 2.5 Men back in 2010. So it had this long run of being the highest rated show in syndication until 2.5 Men broke that streak. But Wheel of Fortune is absolutely one of the greatest game shows of all time. It should be noted that the Tribe actually ranked Wheel of Fortune number 5.
Whoa.
Price is Right, which I forgot to mention this. Price is Right was our top vote getter from the Tribe this week. Price is Right was actually number 1, but Wheel of Fortune was number 5 on the Tribe's list. It was number 2 on Darius's list, and it was number 3 on my list. And so that composite average was enough to tie it for third with the Price is Right, which is pretty good placement, man. Wheel of Fortune is definitely one of the greatest shows of all time. All right, so now we are getting very close to talking about the GOAT, the greatest show of all time. But before we do that, of course, we have to talk about who comes in at number 2. And coming in at number 2 actually is probably my personal favorite television game show. It was number 1 on my personal list. The Tribe gave it a 3rd place ranking. You gave it a 4th place ranking. And that gave it a composite ranking of number 2. So coming in at number 2 tonight is a game show that debuted in 1976 on ABC. It is also aired on CBS, which I think is the network that it airs on currently. Its hosts include Richard Dawson, who was the original host of the show. Growing up as a kid, I remember this show being hosted by Ray Combs. Ray Combs was the host I remember when I watched this show back growing up. Louis Anderson had a run as the host of the show. And more recently, the person that's taken this show and really, I would say, revived it as the host, because I think this show was actually kind of dying a little bit, even though I've always liked it. But Steve Harvey has actually revived Family Feud and has brought it back to current day popularity. So coming in at number 2 on our list of the greatest television game shows of all time is Family Feud. I love Family Feud. Listen, I said Steve Harvey is the greatest Family Feud host of all time, but I know another Family Feud host who has an online version of Family Feud that was immensely popular during the pandemic, and that would be me. That's right, me. I have been the host of virtual Family Feud for months during the pandemic. And
most great game on the internet.
I did an excellent job, but I digress. Let's talk about the actual show, Family Feud. Like I said, I remember growing up in the the 90s. Oh no, I forgot. I think William Shatner also hosted Family Feud for a time. I'm sorry?
We all forgot.
We all forgot. Yeah, but of course, man. I mean, come on, man. When Captain Kirk hosts the game show, it's worth mentioning. But yeah, so I would definitely say that Steve Harvey has resurrected Family Feud and has led to his present day success. But Family Feud, man, the whole aspect of having the families on the show, the surveys, the answers. Steve Harvey has definitely brought an element of comedy to the show, especially when people give bad answers. He's known to kind of get on them and clown them a little bit. But I'm a big fan of Family Feud, man. It's my personal favorite, but number 2 on our ranking tonight.
Yeah, definitely an amazing show. Steve has done an amazing job. I mean, just his clips, the being able to adapt that to today's time and make those viral clips of these crazy answers, right? That in itself is a win, but it definitely was in a lull until Steve got there and he brought it back up. I believe number 1 in the ratings for game shows for a while when he first came on. But it's crazy. You remember, Richard Dawson. He had, I forget what his nickname was, but it was something about because he kissed all the girls. Like,
yeah, different time.
Like I believe he even said, "Hey, if you want me to continue or you want me to stop, send in letters." And they sent in letters. There was like a couple hundred that said, "No, stop, you're creepy." And then a couple thousand people said, "No, keep doing it." And he did. And it turns out to work well for him because apparently he met his second wife. One of the women he kissed became his second wife. So, I mean, I guess that's a win as well. But just a very, very fun show. You talked about the, revolving door of hosts that they've had. Steve's kind of steadied it up, but I thought it was kind of weird that before they went to Louis Anderson, who was one of the hosts, they went to Dolly Parton, of all people, to host it back in 1996, and she turned it down, thank God. And then they went to, here's a weird name, I know you're a sports guy, Joe Namath. Joe Namath? Joe Namath. In 1996, Joe Namath? I'm confused. But they said I think Richard Dawson shut it down. I don't know if he got producing credits or on that or how he did that, but crazy thing. And I'm gonna leave you with this one on this show. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you already came across this and know the answer. As you're looking up the show. But the first question never asks, name a famous George. What's the answer? What's the number one?
Washington.
George Washington.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, but I mean, it is what it is. I was about to say Jefferson, but I don't think that's that might have been on there, but that probably wasn't number 1. He was a freak. I'm assuming he's referring to Richard Dawson
or George Washington
or George Washington, whoever, right? If the shoe fits, George Washington, Richard Dawson, whoever. If the shoe fits, he was a freak. So yeah, you mentioned Steve Harvey, becoming host and ratings going through the roof. When Steve Harvey took over, of course. It was definitely ranked amongst the top 10 as far as highest rated programs, not just game shows, programs on all of daytime television. It was 3rd amongst game shows. It was behind Wheel of Fortune and another popular game show that we may or may not be talking about tonight. But yeah, man, it took, and then in 2015, it actually eclipsed Wheel of Fortune as the most watched syndicated game show on television. So Steve Harvey definitely took it to another level. So much so that wherever Steve Harvey moved to, that's where the production of the Family Feud moved to. When he first took over as host, he was living in Atlanta. They were producing the show at Universal Studios in Orlando and moved it to Atlanta because that's where Steve Harvey lived. Then when he got his television show in LA, they moved production to LA. So, you know, Steve Harvey was definitely has definitely been an integral part of the success of the show. And clearly wherever Steve goes, that's where Family Feud is going. Now, here's an interesting tidbit, Darius. There have been some complaints about Family Feud. The complaints being that since Steve Harvey has taken over as host, that some of the answers to the questioning have become more raunchy. In fact, the Media Research Center, a politically conservative content organization, suggested that the responses were in line. Now, some people were complaining that the responses were too sexual in nature. In fact, a former NCIS actress complained to the producers of Family Feud and described a lot of the answers on the show as filthy. And then this, I guess this media research body came and said that the responses are in line with sexual content becoming more commonplace on television. So the whole notion, I guess, that sex sells was I guess, you know, Family Feud was being accused of kind of you know, kind of falling into that, you know, that they were in that description, if you will.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, obvious reasons for that. One just being, as you kind of mentioned, that sex in, you know, 2020 is not as taboo as it has ever been in history, you know, right? So that's it's common sense. Yeah. And then the answers aren't censored now, apparently, versus, you know, for that reason, back in the day. And then, you know, you got to think about the interesting way that they come up with this top 100. They just literally have someone polling people on the phone, apparently. They don't know that they're answering for a game show. So, you know, maybe they're not as serious in nature, and, you know, you're on the phone, you can get a little silly. But, you know, those are also, you know, the way that the questions are stated, and it lends itself to that. Why? Because we already spoke to going viral and how important that is to making that show successful in 2020. So all of that factors in, and maybe I'm sure it is more sexual, and that's just the way of the world today. So I mean,
yeah,
it's not that serious.
Yeah, you know, definitely, and of course, we've been referencing the TV Guide ranking all night of greatest TV shows of all time. Family Feud came in at number 3 on that list. So definitely a highly regarded television show. Another, we talked about Merv Griffin. Mark Goodson is also a television game show host guru. So in addition to, he's the producer and creator of Family Feud, he also is the producer and co-creator of The Price is Right. Also Match Game, Password, Beat the Clock, To Tell the Truth, Card Sharks. So this guy, he might have more game show credits than Merv Griffin does. But yeah, Mark Goodson is definitely a guy who in that Merv Griffin mode is a great creator of television game shows. So Family Feud comes in here at number 2 on our list of the greatest television game shows of all time. We thank you guys so much for listening in to this episode 25 of the GOAT Debate. If you guys are joining us live on Facebook, shout out to everybody listening live. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Of course, if you are listening to the podcast and want to check out the live airing of the GOAT debate, we do air live on Facebook at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. So, as we always do on each episode of the GOAT debate, before we talk about the GOAT, who came in at number one on our ranking, we like to talk about some snubs, some game shows in this case that maybe deserve some recognition, didn't make the top five, didn't make our honorable mention. Were there any game shows, Darius, in your opinion, that we might have left out of the ranking tonight that maybe should have got some consideration?
Well, of course, they're the three Nickelodeon shows that I listed that were better than Double Dare. So there's that. But if you take a look at my list, I believe once again, all of my five are in the top five, or should be. They may have slipped into. Yeah, so I did great. If we want to talk about that, but since I did that, and once again, I'm in sync with the tribe, I'll take this time to plug the Social Network. The Social Network, Meech, thanks for asking, what is the Social Network?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so what is the Social Network?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. The Social Network is a new network where content creators, and anybody who wants to get social can come together, right? It's going to be an awesome platform, and we may be as soon as a week away from launching this bad boy. We've been working on it since the summer. Right now, you can find it right now on Fire TV. Right now, you can find it on the Roku. Right now, you can find it on Vimeo. So it's a platform. It gives content creators a platform to share whatever it is, whether it's a podcast or maybe you do music or you do jokes and skits, whatever it may be. You can go ahead and get your content on TV, right? And then also on our network where fans can come together and just collaborate. You can write blogs on there. You can sell T-shirts. You can do just about anything you want. And for content creators, it's a way for another platform, and it's a way for income because you can do things like Patreon has their memberships. You can do that here. You can sell your merch there. You can, if you want to have paid episodes or paid content, you can do that there as well. So definitely go to our Facebook right now, Social Network with a Z, Social. And check us out and make sure you follow so you know when it's going to launch. Hopefully next week, maybe.
All right. Social is on the move, and one of the cool things is this is a site, content creator site that is geared towards people of color. So if you're a content creator out there, a podcaster, or just somebody that, like Darius said, that likes to socialize, Social will be the spot for you. So definitely excited to see the launch of that. As I know, Darius has been working feverishly on the website and getting that up and running. So Darius alluded tonight that his top five is maybe not in the same order, but the same five game shows are in the composite top five that was in his personal top five. I have four of the five tonight I want to add because, of course, I have four of the five and an honorable mention. But I do want to point out a couple of game shows that they got votes from the tribe, didn't make the top five or honorable mentions tonight. But, since, we like to talk about game shows. So a couple, The Wall, which is a more recent game show. I'm not too familiar with that one. I know it comes on NBC, but I'm not too familiar with that. You know what I'm really upset about? Because now I'm thinking about a game show that I absolutely loved. I don't know. Would you call it a game show, though? I guess it is. American Gladiators was my show. Is that a game? I guess. Is that a game show? I mean, it was more of a physical, type of show, but I loved American Gladiators. That was one that I remember growing up as a kid. I definitely wanted to be on that show. I definitely wanted to be on American Gladiators. And the Titan Games, which is The Rock's show that comes on NBC, kind of sort of reminds you a little bit of that. They did bring American Gladiators back like maybe like 10 years ago or so. That's a Gina Carano was one of the gladiators on there. This guy Mike Hearn, I don't know, he's big in the weightlifting.
Wrestler on there too, wasn't there?
Was there a wrestler on there?
I want to say Matt Morgan.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was Matt Morgan. I think you're right about it being. It was Matt Morgan.
It was hosted by Hogan.
Yeah, and it was hosted by Hulk Hogan and Layla Ali. Yep. Yep. So that was the more recent version of it. I think the original one was hosted by like former NFL guys. I think it was like Larry Zonka and I forget the other guy who was like the main host. But I know Larry Zonka was like a Miami Dolphin.
Mike Adamle.
Yeah, Mike Adamle. Yes. Yes. Mike Adamle, the former general manager of Monday Night Raw, if you're a wrestling fan. Yes, Mike Adamle was the host on American Gladiators. But I loved American Gladiators. That was a good one. I wish I would have thought about that. I think I liked American Gladiators more than Double Dare, possibly. But but yeah, so The Wall got some votes. The Weakest Link, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. You were describing it when talking about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because you're talking about Jane Lynch. She's the new host of The Weakest Link, but The Weakest Link is a good one. That got a few votes from the tribe. Match Game, Pressure Luck, Let's Make a Deal. Let's Make a Deal is a classic one. Surprise show. I'm surprised a show like Supermarket Sweep didn't get any votes, but
I like the reboot with Leslie Jones.
Leslie Jones, yeah. So they're bringing back a lot of these shows because I want to say, is Pressure Luck? Is that a current show or is that one that's been out recently? I'm not
I don't know.
Yes, Shane. Darius did say Legends of the Hidden Temple and Guts. He made reference to both of those shows when I was talking about Double Dare earlier. So, yes, I haven't heard of either one of those shows. But Shane, if you missed it, I said Double Dare is Guts' daddy. Guts was inspired by Double Dare, but listen, I digress.
And improved. It fixed all the mistakes of that sorry show.
Yeah, Hollywood Squares was another one. They got some votes. I used to love that show too. I used to like. I don't know. I was being younger. I used to like watch it all. We were talking about Chuck Woolery, and we talked about him being the host of Love Connection. I don't know why, as like an 8-year-old kid, I was watching Love Connection, but you know.
It was on earlier, wasn't it? Was it in daytime?
Yeah, no, it used to come on at night. It used to come on at night. I remember it coming on like late at night, like 11 o'clock at night or something. I remember, sneaking up watching it because like my grandmother worked midnight, so I would sneak the TV on and watch stuff like that, and then fall asleep to MASH. I would always put MASH on when I wanted to fall asleep. So there you go.
I got these random ones on mine. Sale of the he called these underrated. You can call these top 5. He called them underrated. It's not what we're doing here, but I'm gonna acknowledge it anyways. Sale of the Century.
I'm sorry, who?
Exact. He said Debt.
That's life. Is that a game show? Is that the game? Is that the game of life?
That is the game of life.
Debt.
The other one I was afraid to Google, but he said Studs.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of those. The guys in the chat room are saying Love Connection. James said it came on at 10 o'clock. Shane said it came on at 7 o'clock. And you guys could be right. I remember. I don't know why I remember it being on at night, but yeah, there have been a lot of good game shows. In the history of television that have been worthy of watches. And so definitely appreciate all the participation from the tribe this week. And now, of course, we get to the GOAT, the television show that came in at number 1. Surprisingly, the tribe voted this show number 2. I actually have the show number 2 too, so I guess it shouldn't be number 2 also. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You had it number 1, but it does come in our composite ranking as the greatest television game show of all time. No coincidence, or it is a coincidence that unfortunately, Alex Trebek has passed away, but there's no denying that Jeopardy is an amazing, amazing game show. It's definitely. I saw somebody, one of the members of the tribe, who responded this week, said that she hated Jeopardy because the questioning was all it was challenging. It was hard, and so but I think that was the thing that actually made Jeopardy so great. As you have listed here. Now, what's interesting is that obviously 84 to the present is what we know. Most people know. Obviously, hosted by Alex Trebek. The show actually originally debuted back in the 60s, 1964, and aired until 1975, and then they tried to bring it back again in the late 70s. That really failed. And then in 1984, they kind of found their niche with Alex Trebek as the host. Over 8,000 episodes have aired. It has won a record 39 Daytime Emmy Awards, a Peabody Award. It's actually ranked as the 45th best television show in the history of television. Not even game show. Of course, game show is number 1 based on that TV Guide ranking, but TV Guide actually ranked it the 45th greatest show ever. And of course, it is in syndication worldwide. And September 14th was its 37th season. So Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune was kind of that tag team. They come on back to back. And that's a hard-hitting television game show duo. But Jeopardy is the GOAT tonight. Well deserved. It's an excellent game show.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it started way back when. I think it started as a daytime show. And Merv Griffin, again, comes through and he plucks Art Fleming from a TV commercial and makes him the original host, and he went on to win 2 Emmys. So this Merv Griffin he's a gem finder is what he is. Just finding all these stars. But, we talk about money earners, the top, when you Google the top money earners, they all come from Jeopardy. I guess the most famous was the one who went on the largest run, Ken Jennings, back in the day, $2.5 million, over the course of 74 games. We were talking about the small prizes, up until millionaire. I think the most you can win if you sweep the board, do the double Jeopardies at the right time, is $500,000. That's the most you can win in one episode of Jeopardy, which I thought was interesting to know. Ken Jennings, who won over $2.5 million, I think the most he ever won was like $100,000, something like that, in a single episode. But it's just amazing run that they had out of all those times that they filmed all those games. Thousands and thousands of episodes there. 7 of those ended in nobody winning, because they didn't have above 0, and then just one time there was a three-way tie, where they all ended up with $16,000. One guy should have won it, but he didn't wager. All he had to do wager was $1 more, and he would have won it. But it became the first time in history, and they came back the next day. But Alex Trebek, mustache, no mustache. His facial hair was so iconic that it became a storyline. So just an amazing show, right?
Yeah, man, definitely. And shout out to the guy, the voice guy, the voice on Jeopardy. Is it Johnny Gilbert? Was that his name? Is that his name?
Johnny Gilbert, that's the singer, right?
I don't know. But the guy, who always talks and tells you what the prizes is and says, "This is Jeopardy," that guy. So shout out to him. Shane says that he's tried out for 2 years on the online quiz. He's trying to get the call to be on the show. James says Alex Trebek also hosted Concentration on daytime television. I do remember that. And Shane says, Darius, you're giving free publicity to Verizon with the T-shirt. Verizon and Social. He's a walking billboard today.
I'm waiting for Social to send me that T-shirt, that free T-shirt, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
But Alex, he's like one of the only people to have 3 game shows going on simultaneously. So he was the host of all hosts back in the day. So it's just.
And he was getting, and man, I mean, we was making like $25 million to like be the host for Jeopardy. I mean, he was getting a bag for hosting for being a game show host. I'm like, man.
And compare that. Louis Anderson, I think, took the his game show hosting job for $1.5 million.
Oh, boy. I'm about to say you laughing, but I would take it for $150,000 right now. Being real, I'll host it for $150,000. Let me know.
Oh well, Social will be paying that shortly.
All right, cool. I mean, I might do a game show on Social. We might have to start a Social game show. Boom! Oh, let me stop with these ideas, man. Airing these publicly. But Social game show coming soon, hosted by. I'm about to go from Facebook host to.
Hey, that would be bad, yo. That would be bad.
Content creator game show host. So yeah, but Jeopardy, man, definitely deserving of the number 1 spot here as the greatest game show of all time. I know personally, like I said, that I remember many nights sitting in my living room, going back to back between Wheel of Fortune and then Jeopardy coming on, and it just being a fun time with family. Definitely, deserving, as I said, of the spot at number 1 being the greatest television game show of all time. So Jeopardy comes in at number 1. Just to recap for you guys, we had Jeopardy at number 1. We had Family Feud at number 2. We had a 3rd place tie between Wheel of Fortune and The Price is Right. Then coming in at 5th was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's our top 5 tonight. The greatest television game shows of all time. So you guys can let us know what you think about that list. If you listen to this podcast later, you're not listening live, you can certainly comment, give us feedback. You can do that watching the video back on Facebook, or if you listen to the podcast, you can comment, of course. We want you to make sure you like, subscribe, rate, give us any critiques that you might have of the GOAT debate. We certainly appreciate the love and support. This has been episode 25 of the GOAT debate. If you guys have not already, make sure to subscribe to our social media. We're at the GOAT Debate Podcast on Facebook. We're at GOAT_debate on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, you can DM us show ideas. We love to take show ideas from the tribe. We did an episode last week. There was a suggestion by a listener where we did a countdown of the best blue-eyed soul singers of all time. So if you missed that or any other episode, of course, you can go back, wherever you listen to your podcast, and you can find previous episodes of the GOAT Debate. Darius, before we sign off tonight, any last words, any parting shots?
Nope, none other than Double Dare, not the greatest.
It's not
history. Not even the greatest in network history. I don't care what that list told you. Look, it's Nickelodeon. I can't say it. Nickelodeon Arcade was a better TV show. Go Google.
I don't even know what that is.
See, listen, you ain't ready for this. You weren't ready for this.
That
I have the best shows. I know them.
We might have to do a top 5 of Nickelodeon shows. We might have to do an episode where we count down the top 5 shows on Nickelodeon. That actually is a good idea. We'll have to put that one in the bank for a future episode.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the GOAT Debate Podcast. We will catch you guys next time. Until then, stay safe. Peace.